Virtualization has become a really hot topic out there in the computer world, especially in the corporate world. And the BIOS has a big role to play in virtualization. Now, the 2012 objectives of the CompTIA A+ exams does include virtualization as a topic. So you need to be familiar roughly with what virtualization is, and it wouldn't hurt to grab a copy of maybe VirtualBox or VMware or Microsoft's virtualization products, Virtual PC, this sort of thing, and just play with virtualization and see what it looks like. It's a really, really great functionality. It's a great way to test operating systems. But for the first time in 2012, CompTIA is going to include virtualization. Now, virtualization, you need to understand, is a CPU feature. This is a trick of the processor. What's happening with virtualization, we're going to open a window and run a different operating system within that window than what we're actually running that's causing the PC to function. Now, this means that I can run Windows 7 on my PC, but I can have Windows XP open up in a window and run just like it's a separate machine. Really, really neat feature, a really great way to access all kinds of different features, save on hardware costs and all sorts of things. But what we're concerned about here is that you understand that virtualization is a function of the CPU. It's not the motherboard, it's not any other piece of hardware that's making this magic happen. It is the CPU. Now, virtualization has to be enabled in the BIOS CMOS environment for virtualization to behave. Now, some CPUs that are out there do not support virtualization. Now, I've got an HP laptop. I love the laptop in every respect except it has an Intel processor that's about 4 years old. It does not support virtualization. And I can load my virtualization software. I can install an operating system into it. But when I try to start the virtual machine, I get an error message. And basically what it means in plain English is, hey dude, we don't do virtualization on this particular machine. All right. Older Pentium 4s, Celerons, some of the AMD Athlons simply won't do virtualization. Okay, so to run virtualization on a CPU that does support virtualization, and by the way CPUs support them is they're basically taking certain hardware calls and certain CPU calls and translating them into other actions. Okay, and that's a whole long story there. Go dig into how virtualization works. It's pretty interesting if you like nerd reading like that. But anyway, what we need to do is go into our CMOS settings. So we need to restart our machine, go into the BIOS, right? F1, F2, or delete on most machines. Jump out into those settings and go look for VT, Virtualization Technology. And you'll probably out there in the BIOS somewhere see Enable VT. Now, this may not be on by default, so you'll have to go out there and turn this on. Now, if you don't see anything about VT out there in your CMOS settings, it probably means that your CPU does not support virtualization. Keep this in mind on the exam. All right, Bob's trying to run virtualization, but he keeps getting an error message, right? And the error message is about an inability to find a valid process or whatever every time he tries to start up the virtual machine. That means that Bob either has not enabled VT in the CMOS settings, or he's not gone into the BIOS and enabled VT, or it means that virtualization is not supported by that CPU. Watch for that question on the exam. Watch for any number of questions about that scenario. But just keep in mind, virtualization usually has to be enabled in the BIOS using the CMOS settings functionality for it to work. So just watch for those questions and those situations on the exam and in real life when you're trying to do virtualization on your machines.